You were not taught how to use money, you were taught how to fear it. Most people were trained to work for money, worry about money, and survive with money for bills. So fear, scarcity, and pressure became part of their identity before they ever learned stewardship, ownership, or direct. When you expose that inherited law, you separate that fear from that purpose. And you start using money as a tool for stability, service, and legacy. You learn how to work for money. You learn how to worry about money. And you used money only to pay bills, but you were never taught what money is actually for. You were shown survival and not stewardship. You learn how to react to money, but you do not know how to direct it. So from the very beginning, money was introduced as pressure, not possibility. And since you had that belief system early on, now all you do is begin worrying about money before you even have real financial power. You grew up hearing about stress, seeing lack, watching panic, and absorbing the idea that money is always scarce, always urgent, and always one problem away from disappearing. That creates relationship with money built on anxiety instead of wisdom. That's why whenever you get money, you can never keep it. It's a system regulation. Your nervous system responds in that manner because it feels that having that much money is unfamiliar and dangerous. But as soon as you spend, you start worrying about that lack again because that same cycle started. And after a while, that fear stops being just a feeling and becomes an identity. You start seeing yourself as the one who is always behind and you're always trying to catch up. And whenever it comes, you're always bracing for lack. That's why you avoid your bank account. You overspend emotionally and you chase status. You're chasing designer labels, images, because you're trying to cover that insecurity with symbols instead of confronting that belief system underneath. Rather than trying to correct the issue, you sweep it under the rug. You treat it as something that you'll take care of in the future, or something that will take care of itself in the future. Then you find yourself 2 years later with $20,000 worth of loans that you never paid back. 5 of them are charged off in 15 collection accounts. And you wonder why you can't get that house. You wonder why you can never get ahead and you're still in that apartment complex riding that bus to work. And I know what I'm talking about because I was there before. I was living out of somebody else's apartment for 2 years. We didn't take care of ourselves financially, but then something snapped in me and I had to finally start taking my steps right. I had to get myself back in line and get myself financially prepared. And now I'm at a point to where I'm ready. You accepted that survival-based thinking because it came from people around you who were doing the best that they knew how to do with what they had. But what was repeated to you is not automatically what should keep ruling you. The first step to correcting this is by exposing the lie. You have to identify the money beliefs that you inherited and stop calling them truth just because you were familiar with them. You accept that cycle of poverty that you've ingrained in your belief system, which you choose to ignore, but you validate, and your behaviors and your actions are a result of miscorrection and a misrepresentation of who you truly are or who you can be. Once you expose that lie and you break that mantle, that's your current belief system now, you can then correct the system into something that has truth with a solid foundation. That solid foundation has to be firm and it has to hold merit. It has to be something that is true and something that represents stability. The second step to correction is to separate fear from purpose. Money is not your leader. Money is not a tool. Its purpose is not just for survival. It's supposed to help create stability, increase your options, and build ownership. It's to serve others and to create a legacy for you and your family. When you stop seeing money as something to fear and start seeing it as something to steward, your decisions begin to change. A lot of us were raised on a mentality and a belief system that thinking that poverty is piety, meaning that we were meant to be poor because we believe that the Bible tells us to be poor, but it doesn't. Somewhere, somehow, we were taught or we learned growing up that poverty is piety, meaning that we were meant to be poor because the Bible tells us that we're supposed to be poor, but it actually doesn't. When Jesus spoke to the rich young ruler and told him to sell everything he had and to give it to the poor and to follow him, we think that's supposed to mean stay poor. But what the Bible tells us is this one thing, that when we give to the poor, God increases what we gave. But Jesus had only revealed to that man the inheritance of the next life. He didn't reveal to him the inheritance of this life, which is the current life. But we focus so much on the riches and going to heaven that we should focus on that, yes. But we need to realize that when we give here on earth, everything we give is returned. But here's the caveat. You have to give with a cheerful heart when giving. Jesus was testing the rich young ruler to see if he was really going to give his inheritance and all his riches that he earned on earth to the poor. Because he would have gained double. If he knew the word and if he would have kept it, he would have received double just like the word said. But he wasn't heaven focused. He was just focused on what was here on earth. So as soon as he heard that, that's why the Bible said that his heart had grew sad because of it. And we also learned that the love of money is the root of all evil. Correction. People hear that money is the root of all evil. That's not correct. It's the love of money is the root of all evil. But then we ask ourselves, how do we escape that? Here's the answer. We have to store up money for our children's children. Proverbs says that a father who leaves an inheritance for his children's children does a good thing. That means that your saving is not yours. Your retirement income that you have is for you, but your savings and that life insurance policy that you have, that's set up for your grandchildren. A life insurance policy is an excellent way to give to your children's children and for your children when we leave. And it's not just meant for us, it's meant for our children's children. We were always taught that we're supposed to save up this nest egg and then live comfortably in retirement, but that's just selfish thinking. Everything we do now should be ushered to steward the money that we have for our children's children. Like the saying goes, I want to give my child what I never had. You see, we were never taught that. I mean, we just had enough to get by. We were never taught about financial education or how to put in money to a life insurance policy, about real estate or anything like this. This is why we need to learn this now. And I just recently learned this within the last 5 or 6 years on how to actually obtain it. And now what have I been doing? My children's children are set. I got everything on auto pay to where I don't even have to worry about that. Money comes out of the account that I have money deposited into and goes right into another one. I got another savings with 4.5% APR just sitting there saving up for the future. So I do have somewhat of an inheritance set up already, but I've been more focused on ushering into this financial education to teach you what I've learned as well. The third step to that freedom is to rebuild your identity through your action. You have to stop seeing yourself as just a worker, just a bill payer, or someone trying to survive. You have to start seeing yourself as a steward, a builder, and a person who can learn how to direct money with intention. Because if you don't have a plan set up for your money, if you're just spending your money all willy-nilly, not knowing where it's going out to eat every day, going out to buy that DoorDash, going out to just buy designer stuff, I know I was just blowing my money on unnecessary things. And if you don't have a plan set in place for your finances, your money is always going to disappear and you're going to continue seeing yourself in that cycle until you finally stop and do something about it. And that's what I mean by you have to direct your money. You have to set your money with intention. You have to know where you're putting that money at every week or every 2 weeks. You got to have a budget set in place. I'm going to spend $43 once or twice a month to go out to eat. So in that way, you're putting your money into your tithe and your offering. And then you can also save it and then pay your bills and still have some left over to live off of. And once you set your intentions and your priorities straight, then you start become transformed in your mind. And then you take on a new identity. And that new identity becomes real when you prove it with your actions. Through track spending, studying credit, building a savings system, or learning one principle about ownership, which I just told you is the life insurance or real estate or whatever else you have that you're going to pass on to your children. And this is me speaking from experience. If you're not taking care of your personal credit or put an effort towards paying your bills on time, that's not a fear of money right there. It's irresponsibility. It's irresponsibility with an adult with money who's still thinking like a child. Now, that's not to bash you, but we were all supposed to be an example to our children. And we're supposed to represent the body of Christ. But how can we not do that by budgeting properly? And that money that we have, when we get it left over, is in abundance. In the situations that we find ourselves in this, we call it lack. And what I mean by lack is that we don't have independent businesses. We're supposed to have independent businesses outside of our 9-to-5 to cash flow us. We became so comfortable and familiar with the 9-to-5 that we weren't willing to invest that time and money into a business to create even greater abundance than what we have now. And here's an insight. You probably don't realize that the bad money habits that you have is childhood training in adult form. When you call personality is often conditioning. What you call bad luck is sometimes an unchallenged belief. What you call that's just how life is often a script that you never stop to question. That's why a lot of people, even in the comments and other videos, are always saying that they want good money advice and they're still stuck. It's because the information alone doesn't break the identity. I've seen this a lot in peer-reviewed studies, a lot of comments on every social media platform. People always say they want to have peace with money, but every time money comes in, you go right back to panic. You always go into avoidance, and then you're always on short-term decisions. On the surface, it looks like a discipline problem, but underneath it's really an old script still running in your life. This is like an adult still reading from a childhood instruction manual, because even when life challenges you, you keep following rules that should have stopped questioning. And this is what we're missing, that we are not just repeating behavior, but we're protecting that identity that once felt normal. What feels natural is not always true. And this is psychology time. This is why people accept that cycle. It feels familiar. It feels normal. It feels like life. We were trained around that fear, to have survival, to live comfortably, and to have limitation. And then that becomes a part of our internal world. So instead of challenging that lie, you keep confirming it. You look for reasons to stay where you're at. You stay around people who reinforce those same beliefs and keep identifying with the very mindset that's keeping you being stuck. You can leave the environment physically and still carry the mentality. And here's the reality. Money itself is not the problem by itself. The deeper problem is the identity built around that fear, scarcity, and survival. If you're going to change, your shift has to be deeper than budgeting. It has to become renewing of your mind. You have to move from the fearful worker to intentional steward, from survival thinking to strategy, from image chasing to ownership, and reacting to money to directing it with purpose. And I challenge you to give yourself one piece of ownership, whether that's a life insurance policy, a trust, a real estate investment, whatever it may be. Don't take this as investment advice, but literally do something better with your money and find what to do with it. If you want a strategy and tool set to be able to get started, I want you to comment below tool. And I also want you to follow and like, because this is a series that I'm continuing to better improve anyone who needs financial strategies and financial education. And just before you go, I want to give you one more piece of information. I'm hosting a live 5-day challenge, which is called the Credit to Cash Flow Challenge, which is what I teach you in a 5-day strategy on what credit is for, how to leverage it, how to build up the foundations that you need in order to build generational wealth. The 4th day will teach you strategies on how to start your business. And then the 5th day is implementing and teaching you strategies on how to get additional streams of revenue for your income and how to get started.